Welcome to a new series on this channel, where we are trying to, or I am trying to make some tutorials for people. Why? Why am I doing that? I'm doing it because that's how I fucking learned how to do VFX and stuff. You know, people posting tutorials online for free, adding some free elements, right? Some cracks, right? Some hacked programs. You can get in. You don't have to buy them as a 13-year-old. You can learn how to use them, you know, like I did. Pretty good stuff. Pretty good stuff. And here I am today, you know, I don't fucking know, 8 years later. And either maybe I have a thing to, maybe I've done this long enough that I can, you know, teach a thing or two, or I'm completely delusional and I've completely lost it. And, you know, either way, let's start this off. What are we doing today? We're going to make a little tutorial. Now, the first thing I should say is that this isn't a how to use After Effects tutorial, right? Learn how to use After Effects, go on YouTube, go find somebody who's done a tutorial that plenty of people have. I don't feel the need to like make another one. Go watch that, come back, you know, and in the likely case that you're at some point gonna want to put, you know, some smoke in the distance in one of your shots, right? We'll teach you how to do that. You know, that's what I'm here for. So let's first of all look at what we're gonna be making today. I'm gonna just skip ahead here. Let's say 26. Bang.
You have to burn your boats and give yourself no option of retreat. Let us tell your story.
Nice. 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 That looks really good, whoever did that. That's actually really good. God damn. Okay, what do I have up here? So yeah, that's what we're going to be making today. But first, I think I want to let you guys know that, you know, basically everything I know came from Video Copilot, and they're just Andrew Kramer's an amazing guy. Obviously, I'm not sponsored by him or Video Copilot. You know, this video is going to get like 5 or 6 views, so I don't think I'm on anybody's radar. Definitely not sponsored. So just go over there and check it out. You know, it's just good, free, educational material for VFX. You know, this is literally where I've watched all these tutorials multiple times, and I always go back for inspiration and stuff. It's a great site. It's a great fucking site. And then because burning boats is not, how do I say this, rich, we don't create all our own elements. We actually buy elements from, you know, other companies and stuff. So for this particular effect, I knew I would need some large smoke plumes, so I headed on over. You know, Video Copilot has their own pack as well. I believe it's called Action Essentials 2, and they have a bunch of smoke elements and stuff as well. I fucking, you know, I didn't actually pay for it. I got it when I was like 13 from a friend, like a cracked version, you know, but don't tell anybody. So you can come over here, and, you know, I actually did buy it for, you know, I'm an adult now. I do buy my effects because it's what's ethical and what's fair. As people spend a lot of time doing this stuff. I don't fucking know, dude. Go on the site. There's windy stuff. You know, if there's wind in your scene, there's straight stuff. There's, you know, and it comes with an alpha channel, you know, which for those of you that don't know, just basically means this, there's no background. The smoke is already cut out for you, and you can just place it on top of, you know, whatever you need. Okay, so, and then, you know, obviously we want to watch a couple memes before we start this, because we want to be in a good mood. I actually haven't watched this, but let's...
I'll mark it on your map.
Okay, I want to show you a little secret. In a tactical situation, the sound of Velcro, you can hear it a mile away, and everybody knows that sound of Velcro. It's... And, well, I'll show you. So here we have a Velcro pouch, And this is the sound that gives you away in the tactical situation. And so he taught me a method of opening the Velcro so that if you do it right, no one will hear the Velcro. Okay, and it's real fast. And so the Velcro, I've got it on as best as I can get it on. And this is what he taught me.
Let me set up the After Effects project and I will be right back. Fuck. God damn. Alright, we're back. We got everything set up now. I forgot to say that, you know, obviously a VFX tutorial needs to have some like epic, you know, dubstep music. So let's do that right now. Wow. That was fucking so... That was really something. Love the dubstep. Alright. My mouse isn't working. Great. Alright, so we basically have separated between our, you know, the clip that we're working on and the element that we kind of want to work into the clip. So let's start with the clip that we're working on, and to start a new composition, which is basically a new sequence, drag that into the composition icon that says create a new composition. So what I'm doing here is basically figuring out exactly the length of my clip. By dragging these bars, I can sort of say, okay, well, I want my clip to end right there. You know, even if that extends a little bit, I know, well, I don't really need to do graphics on that, so leave that out. Right click on this little bit lit up area in between and trim comp to work area. That just sort of trims your composition sequence to the length of the clip that you're actually working on. So the first thing you'll notice, and the first thing that was asked by Mads was, oh, you know, shit, we got all these fucking buoys out here, you know, all these buoys and these ships, and it's all making it look like not an open ocean that we came from, but rather a designated area for people to swim, right? Which is a lot less badass, obviously. So I think the first thing we want to do is get rid of those buoys. Okay, and I've got the original clip right here, and the reason that I'm going to bring out the original clip, you'll see in a second. So let's just organize this a little bit. This is going to be my main project, which is all these things, and this is more extra stuff, you know, call it whatever the fuck you want, I don't care. That's going to go in there, as well as the composition that I'll be using for that. Like I said, I would be doing all this in 4K, but because we are doing this in real time a little bit, I want to save some time, not at 18,000, 1920 by 1080, buddy. We do want to save a little bit of time, so I'm just gonna make the quality a little bit less. Perfect. And the reason I'm finding the clip is that we are actually in the original shot here. We're blocking some of these buoys, right? And as we walk off screen, those buoys are going to be revealed, and we kind of need a backplate that's completely clean for us to walk away from. So I'm going to find an earlier part of this clip where we're kind of swimming to shore, and you can see all the buoys. And as soon as I bring this into Photoshop, you'll kind of understand what I'm doing. But for right now, again, this determines sort of the length of your composition, but also will determine the length of your export. So to export in After Effects, we go to composition, we add to the render queue, what was that, Option Command M or something? I don't know if you're into shortcuts, go ahead and do that. And all I want for this is a JPEG at maximum quality. That's fine, and I'm just gonna send that straight to the desktop, and I'm gonna make a tutorial folder here, and this is gonna be my back plate, and we'll just pop it right in there. That's fine. Let's render that out, and let's Let's open Photoshop. Okay, we're here in Photoshop. Let us find that little image, tutorial, backplay, this little bad boy, and let's just drag that little bad boy into our Photoshop project here. So if you know anything about Photoshop, you know this is a pretty simple fix. Let's get rid of those grids. That's Command H. You know those really bother me. Just go to the what is it? The spot healing brush. Exactly. I think shortcut J. You know, sort of. You can use the brackets, the square brackets, to increase and decrease the size of your brush, and you just kind of find the right size here, and you click on it, and you know we're in 2018, people, and this shouldn't be super surprising. This used to be a fucking nightmare, you know, before we had content fill aware. I'm talking like I'm a 40-year-old and I've been dealing with, you know, analog film or whatever, but
let's all go to the lobby.
This fucking mouse is gonna be the end of me, Jesus Christ.
Let's all go to the lobby.
Smart man tell me once, you know, never be working with your hands in your pocket because you look like a fucking idiot.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
I mean, come on. Tell me that doesn't look better, right? Then the other thing is like these background elements. I wouldn't use content fill because it's not like within a texture. It's kind of in between two textures. So anything, you know, I'm sure it handles it all right. Let's see what it does. Okay, here we go. Slowly, slowly, slowly. Stay connected. Mouse, please. Yeah, so you can see it just kind of has problems with like blending two things, and that's fine. You know, nobody expects Photoshop to be able to do everything. I mean, content aware, because you have the fucking clone stamp tool. So don't be a noob. So sorry. If you hold Option and click, that'll kind of sample. I'm now sampling from here, but I'm gonna paint that over here. If that makes any sense to you. Basically, you just want to keep in a straight line, and then usually I'll come from the other side, line that up again. Again, hitting Option to kind of set your reference. And bada bing, bada boom. Again, take longer in an actual scenario. Now this boat, we don't really want to be frozen either, so let's have that fixed, and that's good enough. Nobody will notice that. And I don't fucking know this boat too. And so that's been edited. Bang, let's go back into After Effects. So now I've got this freeze frame on top, and I've got these two lunatics kind of walking underneath. So, and I should say this now as well, I could have looked back, I did this effect about 2 months ago. I could have looked back and seen exactly how I did this, but for the sake of the tutorial, I think it's actually probably more interesting to see the process and to see how we kind of arrive at an end result. Right, especially for, you know, if this is under time pressure, your client's asking for this tomorrow, I mean, this is how you're gonna fucking do it. So let's see what we got here. What I'm saying is I'm improvising, I might fuck up, you know, just keep in mind that that's what I'm telling myself. So I'll bring the opacity to 60. If you hit T on any one of these clips, you bring up the opacity option, and that's basically the amount of see-throughness. I mean, if you have it at 0, you can totally see through it. You won't even see it. If you have it at 50, you'll be able to, you know, it's halfway see-through, and if it's at 100, it's not see-through at all. So we got this one at 60, and that's just so that we can see those. I actually want to see more of the buoys, so I'll put it at 40. Just so we can see those buoys and kind of know what we're working with. So all we really want this to do is cover up the things that we were saying kind of take us out of the scene, right? So we can put that up. Bop, bop. Excuse me, Mr. Mouse. Bada bing. And doesn't that just look perfect? I mean, that's basically the effect done. I know some people probably want to see the top halves of both of these people, but you know, for most cases, you probably don't. So that's going to be perfect for you. But for those people who are thinking, you know, oh, this is bullshit, you like, I want to see the top of those people. Well, you know, we'll keep going. We'll keep going. Don't get mad. Don't get mad. Sorry, what I just did there is hit F, and I just feathered out my mask. And as you can see, that sort of blends the edge of what I'm doing here. And what I did before that was I actually drew the mask. So if you hit G, you get your pen tool, and you can kind of draw shapes for that specific frame. For that specific layer. And kind of determine, you know, what part you want to cut the layer off at. So basically what I'm doing is I'm creating this back plate that's gonna be frozen, but people won't notice it because you're not really looking for the waves to be moving all the way back there. You know, as long as the waves are moving in the front of the image, you're just kind of naturally gonna fill in the blanks, and you're not gonna be too concerned with a static background. And then we take our smoke effect, and we're gonna pop that right on top here, people. We're gonna pop that right on top. I actually can't see it right now. I don't know why. There it is. Right. Obviously way too big. So if you hit S, that's gonna bring up the scale of your layer. I'm just gonna go for a quick 25% here. I don't really know what I ended up using. That looks pretty good. And the main thing is probably gonna be when the smoke is all the way. Oh yeah, we actually want the smoke already to be quite large. That looks pretty good. I like that. Okay, I do like that. Cool. So now what you're gonna wanna do is take the smoke, you can use your arrow keys, and you can kind of just line it up with the horizon. And then what I personally would do is take this background, the backplate that we created already, I would put that on top of the smoke, and I would create a horizon line myself so that some of the smoke is actually underneath the horizon line. Put that at 2 frames, feathering. That looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. And what I would probably do now is add a quick bit of color correction. You know, some people will tell you that you should kind of do everything in a very rigid order. Yeah, but I think making things look good at the moment kind of gives you the motivation to keep going. So what I'm doing here is I'm bringing up curves. I know that the reds, you know, if I go back, you can kind of tell this looks, it's very blue scene. It's in the distance, you know, things that are in the distance are definitely going to be faded. And since we see blue in our atmosphere, I mean, that's the color you kind of want to add. And then you also want to, you know, potentially take away some of that opacity just to bring out the distance of it. So it's going to add some fog to it, and we're going to add more elements like that, but you know, 80% looks pretty good for me right now. That looks pretty realistic. Okay, I think that's good for now. Let's bring all that together again, and now we're going to be concerned with bringing the top halves of our bodies back. So we'll just duplicate that clip, we'll put it on top, and we're only focused with the top of these bodies now, right? That's what we want to bring back. So After Effects has this wonderful tool. I mean, what you could do, this is what this tool replaces, just so you know, is you could, as I said before, you could draw a mask, and this is very rough. This is incredibly rough, right? And you can actually do this yourself if you have the time. And that's why I say with VFX, you know, of course you can pretty much do anything if you're willing to do this shit. But it's like, ain't nobody got time for that. Right, so I'd bring that back. And that would be the top half of his body for 1 frame. And of course, I mean, that's always gonna look best if you're doing it by hand. Although, you know, I will argue, and if you guys just wanna see what that looks like by itself, right, boom. And then to blend it, with the other stuff, you know, again, you add 5 pixel blur or something on the edges, and that's what that feather is doing. That's when you're feathering your footage, that's exactly what it's doing. It's kind of blending it with everything else, right? So let's just go with the 2 pixel blend for now, because it's pretty much blending with what is already underneath it. We can take off that solo, and that's kind of what it looks like, right? And that looks a little bit off, so I'd be like, oh, that makes sense because I actually didn't do my mask correctly there, and whatever. And then every frame you'd have to go through, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like 120 frames of that or whatever. So that's a little bit tedious. What you can do instead is double click on your clip and get the roto tool, which is something that came out, I want to say like CS5 or something, I don't fucking know. You can get the roto tool and you can zoom in here, this mouse, and you can tell it, you know, kind of what to focus on. Oops, don't do that. Plus and minuses your zoom in, zoom out, and if you hold command and drag your mouse to the right or left, you can kind of change the size of your cursor there. What I'm trying to say is, like, just focus on that, please, and just focus on that, which shouldn't be too difficult. Probably shouldn't have started this right in the middle, but that's fine. And then what I'll do is I'll actually zoom out. I don't understand. Yeah, zoom out of this a little would be nice. And I will let the program know that I actually wanted to calculate all the way back to here, and I wanted to calculate as well all the way up to the clip end. Is that, no, it's not. It's just, again, my mouse being extremely annoying. Bada bang. And this is basically, I should show you guys this, sorry. You can do it frame by frame. You can watch what the computer's doing if you want. I've done it enough times that I tend to just I don't really want to be, yeah, for the tops halves, that's going to be fine. And this is just telling it, please calculate all the way back. Wait, what else you can do is you can just hit freeze, and it's basically going to calculate every single frame along here for you and save it, which is important. And we'll get back when this has calculated everything. And we're back. And we are back, bitches. And male bitches, Mitches, as I just found out. Bitches and Mitches. We are back. Let's see if this worked. So basically it went through the whole clip. It kind of used the first input I gave it to calculate the rest. Wow, that worked way better than it usually does. Not gonna lie. Okay, great. So we can go back into our composition here if my mouse will work. Oh my fucking god, just get a new mouse. Just get a new mouse, they say. Alright, let's see it. So the top half of our bodies are back. You know why? Because we did that roto tool, right? So we got this weird clipping of us. But it's not a big deal because we got stuff that actually fits exactly into what the background should be, right? It's not that different, right? That looks terrible. But if I take the soloing off, even with our backplate that we chose, I mean, it's not great, right? Nobody's gonna say that's great, but it's not terrible either. So there's a couple of things we can do to fix this. Let's start with actually getting into the settings. So this roto, what's it called? Roto brush, right? You can obviously change the settings on that. What I like to do is I really like to, oh my fucking god, this thing is not like work. Oh. I like to reduce chatter. I mean, I've never reduced chatter and had a bad experience with it, so go ahead and do that. Change the feather. I mean, that's just, again, like I said, it's the blending that it's working on. And something that is possible in this clip that I found out is that, you know, if you take this clip and put it at the top, you kind of notice that our heads, you know, they never really cross with the buoys. So what we can actually do is we can go in here, because you might think, you know, oh, Mads' hair, like all that beautiful, beautiful, beautiful hair, like it was too difficult for the program. The same with me, right? With my receding hair. It also gets cut off, right? And I need all the hair I can get, so, you know, I don't find that very fair. So I'm definitely going to work on this. You know, I'm definitely going to want to spend most of my time on making people, you know, think that I have a full head of hair. And I'm just joking. I actually, it might be, you know, you tell me what you think. I don't know. It's hard to judge sometimes. I'm like, well, is it thinning? I can't really tell. My dad definitely has thinning hair, so he's got like no hair, so I won't be surprised. Get used to it, people. Your beauty fades, right? Am I right? Okay, my second mask is in here. So I've got two masks, and what you can see is that it just brings out, right, the information in our hair. That one's a little bit close to the smoke, and I think that's actually because the smoke isn't centered, which is kind of a shame. I should have thought of that. So I'm just gonna move that. Don't get upset. You can be like, oh, but that other thing we did, it's fine. We literally, just make sure you don't move it like this, because that's when you're actually moving the clip. You wanna actually select the points and hit Command A, select all your points, and move the actual mask itself. Otherwise you're just gonna fuck yourself over. And we're gonna move that over, and that's not a big deal. Right, and you might say, well, what if I wanted it? That's fine. I mean, it would just take you more time to do this mask. I would actually say, you know, composite-wise, it looks nicer right between us. If there actually was smoke, that's probably how we'd frame it, so. Whatever, we got our two heads, and then what you want to do with these is you really want to make sure, well, you want to track them to our heads, basically. So mask path, you could obviously track them. That'll be for another tutorial, but some people will know what that means. That's still good. I'll add a keyframe there, because that's just saying, good job. Good job with what you're doing. See, that is already a little bit less exciting. Okay, we're still there. We're still there. When do we kind of decide to turn around here? That is good. Okay, I'm happy with that. We're starting to turn. And then what you want to do is you want to go to the very end of your clip. The point is you want as little keyframes as possible. As soon as you start fucking around and doing a bunch of shit, it's like, that's when, it's like, I'm trying to think of a good example. Fuck. What's a good example? What's a good example? Let me think for a second. It's like something you shouldn't mess with too much. Like it's like dough, or in certain situations, right, where there's a bunch of air in the dough, and like you just wanna touch it as little as possible, because if you touch it, then you're with keyframes. You know, if I try to do frame by frame, it suddenly seems very unnatural. So just try it at 2, and then you're like, okay, well that doesn't. You know, I gotta adjust that in the middle here and adjust that here, but still we're only at 3 as opposed to like 45 or whatever. You know what I mean? So you put that in there, my hair comes back great, and then, okay, we get to here, you know, I don't fucking know, dude. Take that, bring it down a bit, take that, I look pretty good in that. And you really just want to make sure that you're still in frame, perfect. So that's probably going to be pretty good. Now, same thing as always, we're going to want to feather both of these masks. You know, I'm just going to go 4-4, again, because my background is extremely similar to what it should be. If it was totally different, boy, you know, you got to be more precise with your masks, and you got to feather it more, probably. We're back. I'm pretending to be in a good mood, even though I'm not. Because let me tell you, guys, the story of this fucking first tutorial. I didn't hear like a red alert. Excuse me, your card is full. Make sure that you're not recording for another 30 minutes because it's not getting recorded. There's no way I can call Mads again and be like, oh, sorry, it fucked up again. So I'm just gonna have to eat it. I'm just gonna eat it. I'm gonna eat my pride. Fucking God. But we're back, and I'm excited, and we're gonna do the whole thing again. Maybe this is a good thing. Maybe I've done it so many times now that I'm just gonna come across as some sort of child prodigy. So what we want to do to start, we're back in our After Effects project. The last thing we did, obviously you guys just saw, is we brought in back the top halves of the body and the hair. And the only thing left to do is really work on this smoke and work on adding camera shake at the very end. So let's start with the smoke. And the thing to keep in mind with things, you know, if you look at any paintings with sort of like successive mountains in them, right? What you're taught is that, like, you know, when you're trying to paint them or whatever, even if you look at a photograph, basically the further away the mountains get, the less saturated, the more diffused, the more washed out sort of they start to look, right? Because there's more atmosphere between us and the mountain. At least that's what I think the explanation is. I didn't actually look that up. So essentially it's just too prominent, this cloud, right? It's too intense. So what we want to do is maybe we can take some of these sky elements and blend them into the cloud. So in order to get the sky elements, we can use the backplate that we created in Photoshop, and we can drag that to the top of our project. We'll take this backplate PSD that we just duplicated, which is Command D. We'll hit M, and we will delete that mask, okay? So now you can see it's just a still frame laying on top of everything else. And all we really want to do is take this cirrostratus, make sure you have the layer selected when you're making a mask. This cirrostratus cloud right here, right? We want to just grab a little bit of that. And then that's going to lay on top of the cloud. And I know what you're thinking. It looks perfect. But to make it look even better, we can add a little bit of a feather. And we can take the opacity and we can just kind of bring that down. So let's see what looks good here. That looks pretty good. And now part of this cloud is just kind of going in front of the smoke, and you know, that's really what places elements in a scene, is having something in front of it and having something behind it, and that sort of gives your brain, you know, a reference where it should be sitting in the scene. And then there's two other spots you can basically do this, is these alto cumulus clouds up. I'm totally making up these cloud names. These clouds up here, this bowl of clouds up here, we want to separate and put in front, and we could also add some atmosphere, not clouds, just atmosphere for the bottom here. And that's exactly what I've done. So if you look at this one, this is the mask I drew. And if I bring this in, I can just give you my settings here. Oops, F and T. So I put a 41 pixel feather on it, it looks like, and the opacity's at 60. I mean, that's just what felt good at the time. If you bring the opacity up, you can see you can kind of have these clouds disappear. To me, that looked a little bit weird because I was like, where, that almost feels too far back. You know, it almost feels like the top of this plume of smoke is further back than the bottom if you do that. So you do kind of want to be those in there. And you don't want them to be too washed out, otherwise you start to see the clouds behind. So just play with it, see what looks good. I kind of landed on 40 now. I mean, who fucking knows? And then the last thing is, like I said, this little bit down here, which isn't clouds, it's just atmosphere. So we did a little mask there, and we can bring up the feather and the opacity. Again, F is feather, T is opacity. And you can see what I did with that there. And the reason this has a lot less opacity, and we could even go less, is because it's not blocked by anything. It's not blocked by any clouds. It's not blocked by, the only thing blocking it is the atmosphere, and for that reason, a little bit more should come through than the rest of this plume. And so that looks pretty good. I actually find this quite interesting how this one cuts off. I don't think I did that in the last one. I mean, you can have this go as far as you want. I do actually kind of like that it's just part of it. It almost feels like a little bit of fog just going in front of it or something. So that looks really exciting, and that's basically us adding the atmosphere into the scene and sort of adding a couple elements just to make that smoke look a little more integrated. Now, the next thing we want to do is add the camera shake. And the way to do that is to select all your layers and pre-compose them. And we'll just name this, I mean, this is our main comp, basically. So let's name it that. Okay, good mood. I'm in a good mood. I don't want to do this. Okay. All right, so we've pre-composed everything, and now the last thing to do is to add camera shake. And the reason we add camera shake is specifically for this video. Everything else was shot handheld, so it'd be really weird to suddenly cut to a shot that was on a tripod, especially if it has some visual effects in it. It's just gonna stick out like a sore thumb, sort of. So like we want to hide that as much as possible, which means any effect shots that you're doing should mimic the type of shots that you're cutting in from, obviously, and that makes it more seamless and makes it much more believable. So the way to add camera shake, there's a couple different ways. The easiest way is to go to this group, go to the position, Alt or Option click your keyframe, and you can kind of get into the depths of After Effects here and add expressions. And expressions are basically just, I want to say, like mathematical formulas, or it's is basically what it is. So one expression that is well known in After Effects is the wiggle expression. So if you write wiggle, let's say 5,5, and these numbers can be anything, right? You can look up online if you want what these numbers mean. I don't use this expression anymore, so I actually don't know. You can look it up, but you'll see as soon as we add this wiggle expression, it's going to wiggle our frame, and that is intended to fake camera shake, basically, right? But it turns out there's a much more natural, much more organic way, because if you watch this, it just doesn't look really real. It looks computer generated. So let's make that look a little bit more organic. So if you just option click the position again, that'll delete any expressions that you have. And the way to make this more organic is to take real camera shake and put that into your scene. And the way that works is basically you can go anywhere online and search free camera shake presets. There's a ton out there. This is like literally one of the first ones I clicked on. If you go on here, you can kind of see how this works, right? You have a backplate with a bunch of tracking crosses, and you have a cameraman shooting that backplate. And what you can do is you can figure out you can track these points, and you can retroactively calculate what movements the cameraman was actually making. And since it's a real person holding the camera, obviously the data that you're getting is much more organic, much more real, much closer to what would actually what an image would actually look like if a real person was holding the camera and filming the scene. And you can do this yourself at home as well. I mean, you can put a couple X's on a piece of paper, you can hold up your iPhone and film it, bring that into After Effects, track it, add that to your null, and then add that to your camera, which affects your scene, and boom, your own camera shake put into your own scene. I don't have the time for that, so I'm just going to use someone else's preset. Basically download these, they come in like a zip file. Once they're downloaded, head on over to your applications and go to After Effects, go to your presets, and just drop your folder in there. Now, one thing to be aware of is that You know, for this one, they gave us 4K and 1080p. Usually I'd be using the 4K. This time I have to make sure to use the 1080p. And the reason for that is that if I added 4K camera shake to a 1080p footage, obviously it's going to be more exaggerated or less exaggerated depending on, you know, if you're in 1080p comp using 4K camera shake, or if you're in a 4K comp using 1080p camera shake, they're going to be out of alignment, and it's either going to be too shaky or it's not going to be shaky enough. So definitely make sure you're working in the right parameters here. And basically, yeah, drop those folders in there. Make sure that you reset After Effects, otherwise those effects aren't going to show up. And once you've done that, we are back, and now we have these presets to work with, and you can find those under Effects and Presets here on the right, and you can go to Animation Presets, and you'll have your 1080p and your 4K folder, and you can find a bunch of camera shake presets. If you can't even find this Effects and Presets window, make sure to go to Windows, Workspace. I just hit Default, and everything should pop back if you're confused. So to get this started, we're going to want to create a new camera. Now, I knew that we were shooting close to 35mm. Make sure that you kind of try to guess. Honestly, I don't really think it fucking matters, but it definitely does. So try to be as close as possible. Create your camera, and then create a null object. A null object is basically just a layer with zero information, with null information. And you can assign information to that layer, and then you can assign other layers to mimic, or rather be parented. It's called parenting. Other layers that are then attached to the null and will act the exact same way that the null does. So I can kind of show you guys. First off, for a camera to work in your scene, you want to make sure that whatever you want to work with the camera is a 3D layer. So these icons here determine whether things are 3D or not. So just make sure that everything is set as a 3D layer, and then make sure that your camera is parented, like I was saying, to your null object. So now we have the null, we have the camera that's parented to the null, and we have our main composition. And I should have mentioned this earlier, but if you double click on the main composition, you can get back to your what we were working on. So here we are back here. And as you can see, if I go into 2 view here and kind of give you guys a top-down view, you can see this is our camera. This is what our camera sees. This line in the back here is our actual main composition. It's in 2D, obviously, so from a top-down view, we don't really see anything. It's just a skinny line. And we have our null object. And since the camera is parented to the null object and our main comp is a 3D layer, that means that anything that happens to our null object is going to happen to our camera. So if you can see, since we're top down, I'll go side to side. As I move my null object, I move the camera as well. So if I move my null object to the right, the camera is moving to the right, which means it sees less of the main comp frame. That's how it works. You don't really need to know that. Just if you're a nerd, now you know. So we're back in here. So the only thing left to do is to go to our effects and presets to find specifically, I want the 35mm, I want the light movement, right? I don't want to get too crazy with it. And I'm going to apply that, and it's going to start wherever my cursor is. So let's just make sure that our cursor is at the beginning of our composition. And I'm going to apply this light movement tracking data. And immediately you'll see that it kind of fucks with the whole image. Now there's 2 ways to kind of combat this. You basically just want to undo that first bit of information that it gave it. So you can do that in the main comp, and you can move the position around, and you can hit R and go to the rotation and move the rotation around. But I think it gets a little bit complex because, as you can see, when you move the position, it kind of moves in a weird way because it's recentered itself. So what I actually find easier is to add another null object, and this gets a little convoluted, but believe me, it's easier. I will parent the null 6 to the null 7, which means that anything that happens to the null 7 happens to all of these keyframes, and that's basically what we're trying to do. Because if I just change something in 06, right, and I said, oh, well, this is off, I want to actually change the rotation on this, it's just going to change it for that one keyframe, right? And that's not going to help us at all, because then we got to go through every single keyframe and change the rotation, which would be insane. So you can parent your 06, like I said, to your 07, and then you can change it in your 07 without the controls being all funky. And this is a really nice workaround. And I'm just going to line this up nicely and move that over. And also when you're working with nulls, it's always the inverse, so it can be a little bit hard to move with, but that is fine. Great. Everything's lined up again. Let's see what that looks like. Great. And to me personally, already that just looks much more natural. It's a much more natural camera shake. It feels less calculated, feels less computerized, algorithmic, whatever you want to call it. And that's, like I said, because it's taken from a real human's movements. Now you might be saying, Taylor, what the hell are these black bars here? Like, that doesn't look good. Worry not. Go back to your 07 here, and we can increase the scale. And the reason you have to do this is that obviously if you want to add fake camera shake, you have to zoom into the image a little bit so that it has a little bit of wiggle room on either side where it can create a little bit of a wiggle. So all you got to do is, since it's inverted, you got to zoom in, which means doing less scale. I know that's a little bit counterintuitive, but just go along with me here. And 97% is probably going to be good here. And you want to just scrub through and make sure that ooh, that got really close there at one point. Let's just make sure that our frame, what's that? Is that a little black right there? That is. So let's do 96% then. That looks good. Great. And I'm just going to let this render out real quick, and I will be back in a second. All right, and here we are with our final scene. I want to make sure that you guys know that this is just trying to show sort of the process that we're going through. Of course, you can tinker with this thing way more. For example, can put up the blur here. Maybe you're like, you know what, that piece of smoke still looks too in focus up there. Maybe 15 is a little much. Maybe we'll do like 13 or something. That top, I think I've actually changed my mind here. I think that top, I changed the thing to 40. I would probably bring it back up to 60. I might try to find a different smoke plume element that actually resembles what a ship fire would look like from that far away. Of course, if you think about it, if that's a building and this is the smoke on the horizon, it doesn't make any sense. But I think you also have to understand that there's so many tricks in film, right, that you don't need to go crazy. It's just trying to get to the point where it's believable. And these sort of tricks, putting a little bit cloud in the foreground, having it fade out, as long as it corresponds enough with reality, the viewer's brain will kind of fill in the rest of the blanks and won't really question, oh my God, there's this house here. How could I possibly, what is this? Like, I don't know, all of like Sweden going up in smoke or something, that doesn't make any sense. But that's fine. And that's the fun of it, is to figure out, how far do you have to go to make it believable? Because you're also working, it's like a magic trick. You're trying to trick people into thinking something's real that isn't actually real, and it doesn't, I don't know where I'm going with this.
Hold on till I absorb some heat.
Okay, so that's it. You got your scene, you got the smoke in the background, you got the clouds covering the smoke, you got the two guys, you got their hair, you got the buoys gone. That's how you do it. That's all I can say. Next time, Mads is going to come out with a tutorial. I don't know what yet. Maybe send him some suggestions. for anything you guys have seen, if you want to see a tutorial, let us know. Obviously, if it exists online already, the tutorial, I'll just redirect you to someone else's tutorial that's done it. But if it doesn't exist, we'll be happy to do it. Yeah, not much more to say. I hope you guys are patient with us until we figure out the format of this, and that it doesn't take me 4 times next time to record a single tutorial. But I will see you guys next time, and yeah, have a good week. Bye. Please tell me that recorded.